So, the Girsan Regard Gen 4. Oops. I mean the Girsan Regard MC Sport Gen 4. Jesus Christ, that's long. Factory double action is about 10 pounds. And I know it's the most generic thing to ever say, but you can observe at a glance. It actually is super smooth. By the end of this, we'll have that much produced. Here's factory single action pre-travel and brake. It's about at 4 pounds for the single action brake. Factory reset's excellent too. It's real short and it starts you at the wall, but we'll still get it better. It comes with one 18-round magazine. Uniquely, the magazine has a cutout to correspond with the windowed grip, so you can observe rounds left at a glance without taking the magazine out. If you're concerned about reliability or quality, don't be. The magazine's made by Metgar. They manufacture the Beretta OEM magazine and always have. This is also why the Beretta OEM magazines work in it. Well, for the most part they work. We'll talk about that later. It comes from the factory as decock only, the only one that does. The extractor doubles as a loaded chamber indicator. You'll see it's red now once it's loaded and sticks out a bit. Here's an alternate angle. Comes with 3-dot sights, although I blacked out the rear already. The front is dovetailed. The dovetail dimensions match the ones Beretta uses, by the way, so you can use all the rear and front sights you want. Let's go ahead and just get inside the innards. Explore. Here we have a view of the factory trigger bar in single action and reset. Pretty damn good. Comes with the steel extended mag release, the match slide stop, and the match takedown lever. Typical for your factory DASA gun, it's completely oversprung as far as the hammer spring goes. There's no need for it to be that strong. In addition to that, Girsan is ever wary and is giving you the lanyard loop instead of the flat hammer spring cup, in case you fall into a time portal and end up in World War I. Girsan also decided to make the hammer spring cut pin a roll pin instead of solid. Why did they do this? Because fuck you, that's why. We're now going to take out the factory trigger bar. Rather than dink around with some kind of hooked metal object, we're just going to use the inside part of a ballpoint pen, get it over the trigger return spring, and then push it in all the way. Ideally, it will be thin enough to fit between the actual trigger shoe. Now we need to disconnect the trigger bar spring from the trigger bar. I use a little plastic wedge to get in there. At the same time, I maneuver it inwards and arrest it immediately with my finger by pushing it up against that. Now we'll just push forward on the pen thing and then just pull it out. It's easier if you pull it out from the closer to the trigger part. Since we have it captured in the pen, you can see that we don't need to worry about hooking it again. You just push it forward. I was surprised to see that the factory trigger bar came polished. They didn't do a bad job either. I gave it a bit more anyway. We are now going to install the Langdon Tactical Optimized Performance trigger bar. It does work in these. It usually will need a bit of fitting if you're using it on a Girsan. You just need to stone a little bit of material from the over travel stop. Didn't take me very long. The Optimized Performance trigger bar is going to reduce reset to like a bit over 1/10 of an inch, or was it less? Something like that. 1/10 of an inch is in there somewhere. It also removes just about all the over travel. Another thing it does is increase the length of the double action pull. So the hammer comes further back before it gets released and strikes the primer. This also gets rid of any trigger slap from the double action pull. We're going to start by reinstalling the trigger bar spring here. And it has a slot there for that side. The Girsan's trigger bar spring is more stout than Beretta's, so the reset's much more tactile and audible, which I prefer, and many others do. Now, I already fit the trigger bar, so there's plenty of other videos about how to do that. Okay, while holding the trigger bar spring out of the way, captured with the pen thing, we just need to put that in the hole. There you go. Then once that's done, we just bring the trigger bar spring back and let it go. Here's a better close-up view. There is a little notch on the Langdon Tactical Optimized Performance trigger bar that you'll just need to push the little spring into. It'll click, it's obvious. We now need to just get the trigger bar under spring tension. I pull it up a little bit, the trigger bar itself, while pushing down on the inward part of spring. I use my thumb to arrest the outside part so it can't just fly out. It's hard to tell from this angle, but yep, just needed to push it a little more in. Then it fits into that notch, so there you go. We're now going to fix the double action to be something reasonable instead of 10 pounds. It's a 12-pounder from Langdon Tactical. Pretty simple stuff to install. You just fit the spring into the strut, which is barely visible, and then just reinstall the hammer spring cup thing, whatever. There's not a whole lot to say about that. And I'm not going to bore you with a video of it. And now we have it all installed, so here's the single action pre-travel and brake. Like so. And then the reset. Look at that. Amazing! Oh. Now, you might be concerned that perhaps the firing pin block is now not rising enough with that. It actually is, and I'm going to demonstrate that right here. Now, you can see that it is still being successfully blockaded here with the trigger not pulled. But once we have it pulled and held down, we can get it in all the way further. It doesn't need to go very far in the first place. And then from up top you can see that the firing pin block is protruding. That's how much space it actually needs to clear. And we come back and it springs back down. And as you can see, when you pull the trigger it actually rises noticeably more than where it was at. So it does have adequate clearance. It's not just scraping the top the whole time. You can see here I have replaced the factory screws with these 2mm hex ones. That just looks better. Those are Beretta factory part. The Elite LTT uses those. You can also see just how grabby the factory grips are. They're pretty good. With all this done, the double action, oh, that feels good. There's no way that's more than 6.5 pounds at the most. Single action's about 3.5 now. Let's just look at that reset again. It's so smooth. It's like butter. Ultimately, I'm really kind of astonished at just how high quality this is for the price. I picked this up used. The guy had bought it and not fired it once and then returned it. And I paid $350 for it. The optimized performance trigger bar was $71, so that's $420. And then the hex screws were, I think, $9. And then the new hammer spring was another $9, so it's not even $500. That's ridiculous. To help put it into perspective, if you were to buy the oversized mag release, the match slide stop, and the match takedown lever, and a decocker kit from Beretta, it's going to cost you over $200. What an excellent deal. Consider the Girsan Regard.